most exciting things about Twitter is how musicians have really taken to this format to connect with their fans. So when you think about Tears for Fears and one of the founders, Curt Smith, that's C, right, with a C, Curt Smith, he's one of the most followed musicians on Twitter. So he's speaking today at the conference, at the 140 conference in LA. And we're going to ask him a little bit about how he uses Twitter, social media in general. Curt, welcome to Building 43. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I understand that you met a collaborator just through Twitter who happened to be a cellist.
Yeah, I had written this song and we came to recording it, and I thought, you know what, like cello would be really good. I mean, initially I was thinking string quartet, but then I found, so I just basically searched cello on Twitter, and then I found a girl called Zoe Keating. Her name on Twitter is Zoe Cello. And she's at that point she had like 500,000 followers. I'm like, well, she's got to be good. And then I researched her more and saw some YouTube stuff of her playing, and she was amazing. And so I got in touch with her and said, can I send this song up? Are you interested in playing and doing a collaboration on it? And she just turned out that she was a fan, weirdly enough. So actually when we went up there and played Tears for Fears, about a month later she came to the show, and we gave her the stuff, and then she's done all her cello on it, sent it back, and so I'm finishing up on it now.
Now we know by going to your website that you live in a pretty wired world. I mean, when I think about Tears for Fears, I mean, that's a massive wall of production, the intricate layers of sound stacking. You're really utilizing technology as far as it can go. How are you learning these tools? How are you bringing in social media to help you in the studio?
Well, I mean, finding someone like Zoe is one way of that social media has helped. I mean, I think social media's biggest use is really connecting with a fan base more than anything else, and making them a part of the project or a part of your life even. And they feel a lot more, I don't know, they become far more active fans when they don't have a buffer between you and them, when there's no record company, when there's no press person, when there's nothing that's really filtering what you're saying. When you become a real live living human being to them, they tend to become more active fans and followers. So in that sense, social media really helps you as an artist to get the word out about your music, or even if there are social ideas, I mean, political ideas you might want to share. I mean, I was very active during the election last year, and will be during the governor's election in California next year. So those things you can get involved in, which is great.
Now, I noticed when you were on tour and you started talking about and playing some selections from your solo record, that I started getting the word back about how it's sounding, and are you intimidated at all that it's now instant? Somebody's going to one of your shows, and then if you have a bad night, I mean, it's a bad night, but more times than not, they're raving about the performance. And
most of the time we're quite good, luckily. But no, you can worry about it. But in the end, I mean, the whole point of social networking is it is a level playing field. So I think people are going to be used to it. I might not be, because I've grown up in an era when this social networking didn't exist. So the idea of a bad performance going on YouTube or wherever it may be would be mortifying to me. Yet now I think we see so many of them that it really doesn't matter that much, and I think people now are aware of the fact that, hey, it was recorded on a cell phone. I mean, it's not going to sound that great. So because people are aware of that, I think they cut you a lot of slack. I don't think it affects the way people look at your music or anything else.
From an economy of scale standpoint in a business, because now you're running the show, when I think about what the cost of a Sowing the Seeds of Love video would be compared to, okay, now what are the tools? So that machine, that record company machine, it was good for a few things, right? I mean, they did spend a lot of money in certain areas, but now we're having to get clever and find economic ways of doing that. And so do you see social media as helping you in your business for not only your solo record, but for the rest of the projects that you're doing?
Oh, I think so, without doubt, yeah. Because as I say, as the fans become more active followers of you and feel like they're involved in the project, they are far more likely to get active in spreading the word and telling everyone else. And and the whole thing about record companies, yeah, there were aspects of it that were nice, that they threw money, but let's never lose sight of the fact that all they did was lend us money. That's all they did. And we spent it, and then we spend years and years and years trying to pay it back to them. So they didn't really give us anything, And I think that artists now having control of their own futures, or at least the capability of having that control, so choosing not to go that record company route and choosing to build their own fan base, is something you get to keep, as opposed to Universal Records keeping 70% of my income, which is how I would look at it, effectively, or more, actually, probably more, for the rest of the life of those records. I get to keep 100% of my income for the rest of the life of those records, and my kids can have it afterwards. And that's can't be anything but a good thing.
And when we talk about the devaluation of music, so we used to buy a collection, an artist statement, 12 songs as a statement. Now, if Sgt. Pepper's were to be released, we'd get it song by song by song. But you're building a value because you have a direct relationship with your fans and with your artists. How are you approaching your packaging? How are you approaching the collection of songs? Because as an artist, you're not writing just singles, you're actually writing a collection. And we see what iTunes is doing with the iTunes album.
Yeah, I mean, actually what I'm doing this time around is releasing individual tracks. And I think they'll be connected purely by the fact that I'm doing them all in one time period. But I'm specifically just doing them one by one. I'm not jumping between tracks. I'm going to do that one, finish it, put it out there, do the next one, finish it. And as you go along, what will be interesting to me, and hopefully to an audience, will be how it evolves, how track 1 to track 12 evolves, to see if the recording process becomes different, to see if you're obviously leaning that way by the end. Because what I would normally do in an album then is go back to the beginning and redo all that bit, because it's this is what I want to do. So it's an interesting project to do, and this is just the way I'm having to be doing this one. But.
One of the pioneers of this was Todd Rundgren, right? Patronet, and saying, what happened if I don't have millions and millions of record buyers, but I've got a nice, committed core group of fans, and maybe they want to add value by subscribing or something. Yeah. I mean, were you aware of some of the stuff that Todd was doing or some of the other artists that were doing and said, you know what, I like this idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was doing it obviously a long time before anyone else, pretty much. I mean, he's always been, technology-wise, ahead of the field. And Prince tried to do it as well. I mean, and had some success at it. The whole subscriber thing, I mean, I don't quite know where it's going yet. I mean, it seems to me that it could be that you build up a fan base large enough that you then say, well, you now have to pay a subscription to, my website, whatever it may be, and that way you'll get all the free music, that I'm making all the time. That's it. You just become a member, effectively, and you get the music. Or it may be that everything is in a cloud and someone works out a way to find out how many times that's played and they pay us for that. And that will come from, as it was going on, as we were talking about in the panel just now, about, obviously a lot of these websites that are playing our music, they have adverts on the website. They're making money from our music. So there's got to be some way for that, the share of it, to go to the artist who's actually providing the content. It's because it's such a new field, it's going to take a while to work it out, but obviously at some point people are going to realize it has to work itself out, because otherwise how are we going to make a living? And if we don't make a living, then we can't continue to make records, so then you have no substance for your website anymore, so.
I've seen you embrace things like Blip.fm and other ways to share or preview the music until there's a time when there's an actual transaction and I download the high quality, and that's the purchase price, because as I get to know Curt Smith and your music, I want it at the highest quality. We know that the streams that are there, they're almost AM quality. So if I want to get the quality, I've got to come through your distribution point, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want the best quality of that recording, then you do. Yeah, you would have to go and buy it, through wherever we distribute it, and that's obviously on numerous different places. But even then, there's file sharing. I mean, there's got to be, there's revenue. You have to find revenue from somewhere. I mean, we're fortunate enough that the majority of our revenue now probably comes from just doing a couple of small tours a year, because that's where we make our money. And we've recouped, so all records continually sell, and we recouped a long time ago. So we're in a lucky position. My concern is for future artists, that where is their income stream coming from? And I think that if people are making revenue from the use of the music, i.e. if it's on the websites, wherever it may be, then surely some of that revenue has to go to the in the pockets of the artists. I mean, the hard thing is working out how do you quantify who contributed more. to that income. Like, well, I guess you do it on how many plays that had, and so that's X%, and that's, you know, all the way down the line. It's complicated, but I'm sure someone can work out the numbers.
Someone will.
Yeah.
Curt Smith, thank you so very much. And we'll be
It's our
following
pleasure.
at Curt Smith, you know, that's with a C. So,
With a C.
With a C.
C-U-R-T. Yes. And the website is curtsmithofficial.com, because someone had already nicked curtsmith.com, which is upsetting. Who knew there was another guy named Curt Smith?
All right.
It's not.
There's only one, the founder of Tears
The
for
official
Fears.
one.
Yeah, the official.
Okay,
Curt
thanks a
Smith,
lot.
Building 43.